Okay, welcome to episode 3 of How I See It. Today I'm going to talk about mental illnesses and stigma. I'm not ashamed to say that I have um, depression, panic disorder, and borderline personality disorder. I am a quiet borderline, which means I act in instead of acting out. So I don't typically do what a lot of people would associate with a regular borderline. Regular borderlines are very similar to bipolar as far as how they act unmedicated. With BPD, the only known set treatment is therapy. But that therapy has to be very specific to the individual. And I'm not ashamed to say that I have any of these conditions. If anybody asks me, I ain't messed up about saying, oh, yeah, I got this. No big deal. Because it's just like being born with diabetes. You know, I didn't make myself this way. Uh, I was made this way. I didn't do a bunch of drugs that caused psychosis or anything. Um, PTSD, bipolar, complex PTSD, schizophrenia, all of those are things that the person who has them, it's not their fault. Uh, if you want to stigmatize a person, stigmatize the people who have these disorders and refuse to get some kind of treatment. I understand if you don't want to be on drugs. A lot of people have problems with the drugs. You know, the drugs can increase or decrease your sex drive. They can increase or decrease your weight. They can cause all kinds of nice little symptoms. I took Buspar for my panic disorder a long time ago, and it caused me to have a dystonic reaction, which is where all your muscles seize up. And I mean, I was like in the hospital waiting room, like all bent back, and so it was really scary. And when you go through things like that, you say, and some people can do fairly well treating depression and anxiety and even some of the symptoms of BPD with cannabis. Uh, I don't treat like that because I have very specific needs as far as cannabis goes, and until I know like the chemical content, there's always the chance that I'll get too high and not be good. It can spark an anxiety attack if it's the wrong strain, the wrong mix of THC and CBD. Like if there's a whole bunch of THC and not enough CBD. So that's something that when you get into treating medicinally, you have to look at content. Like I think for depression, they suggest a high THC level in the marijuana to lift your mood. So not everybody has to take medication, but therapy is key because with mental disorders, what a lot of people, if a person doesn't have a mental disorder, they don't understand the thought processes. It's that our thought processes are not necessarily right. Um, and we will, like, especially with BPD, if I make a decision that I justify it in my head before I make it. And the thing is that since the thinking is kind of flawed, the justifying it is flawed as well. Um, there shouldn't be a stigma on any of this stuff because people need acceptance. It's cool if you don't understand what's wrong with them. It's cool if you know nothing about the that. A lot of times we don't need you to know those things. We just need you to be there when we're down. If life's kicking us, we just need people who will be there to not kick us and tell us that everything's our fault. oh, it's your own fault, and I get tired of people saying, like, there's a lady that tells me, she says, you don't need medication, you just need God. No, honey, I need medication. I've tried going it without medication. I tried the whole go to church. Uh, you know, I was at church Monday night, Wednesday night, Sunday mornings, Sunday night, singing and hoping and praying. And that didn't work for me. So then I started thinking, well, God made man smart enough to diagnose things and say, hey, maybe this will fix it. And then deciding that, yes, this does kind of fix it. You know, man's smart enough to create things to help conditions that people are born with or life has given them. Uh, so if you can if you can go that route, if God can cure you, if that's your thing, if that works for you, great. Kudos. The only shame in any of these mental conditions is letting people around you suffer because you refuse to get help for your issues. We all know somebody who needs psychiatric help. We all do. And whether that psychiatric help is needed because they drink too much or because they're on drugs, alcoholism and excessive drug use are typically a person's way of trying to fix something that's wrong with them. And that thing that they're trying to fix is typically a mental disorder. And the drugs, they may feel like the drugs or the drinking helps them. They feel like this is the right thing. But everybody around them is seeing what's real. And they're saying this is not, you're killing yourself. And a lot of people with mental disorders don't really care that they're killing themselves with these drugs. They want to feel a certain way, and that's what they're striving for, to feel different than how they feel when they're straight and sober and all that good stuff. So, we shouldn't put a stigma on people. There's no shame in it, even if it's a genetic thing. Like if you say my kid's bipolar, it's genetic, she got it from her parents. Why be ashamed of that? I mean, it saddens me that my middle kid is leaning towards a personality disorder. That saddens me that I know that I passed that down to her. It saddens me that my oldest seems to have inherited migraines and anxiety to go with all that. I mean, to go on her plate, and that I passed those things down. But I know that I haven't abused my kids. So I can feel a little somewhat better. I mean, lots of people have kids and they pass down balding and they pass down bad eyesight and they pass down, bukus of things that shouldn't be passed down. So I feel a little shame about that, but it's not like they can't get help for those problems. And it's not like they're not getting help for those problems. My middle kid has been in therapy since she was 4 or 5 years old. So I'm actively trying to get her help so that she doesn't struggle all of the years that I struggled wanting help and my mom denying it. My mom was the type who, she didn't want me taking birth control. She didn't want me getting mental health care, and it didn't really matter what I did. She wasn't going to say yes to it because I guess she thought people would look at her badly, like she was a bad mom. Well, guess what? She was a bad mom. When your kid is slicing their wrist open, trying to make the point that they need help, granted, it only looked like a cat scratch when I was done because I realized cutting was not my thing. But still, when your kid is willing to go to that point, a good mom says, okay, let's let you talk to somebody. Let's get you some help. A good mom doesn't just set that stuff aside and say, no, we're not doing it. And around the same time, my dad was getting help for bipolar, which I don't think he was. This is why I think that BPD is genetic. I think that perhaps my dad had that. I think that my mom had paranoid personality disorder. She was a bit of a narcissist, which if she would have gotten help, if she would have noticed her issues, and if my dad would have gotten help for his issues, me and my brother might have turned out a bit differently than we have. Not that either one of us are these major failures. It's just that we've struggled with certain things throughout our whole lives, and people not understanding things, and then the whole, I've never been ashamed of my disorders. I don't know about my brother, whether he feels like he has anything. I mean, I know he's currently suffering from PTSD from being in the military. But I think that his problem goes deeper than that. But if he got any kind of diagnosis and they wanted to put him on medication, he would be precluded from being in the military, which is kind of sad that they won't use you at all. I can understand, like they said, well, if you went out to the middle of nowhere and the supplies didn't get there and you ran out of medication, okay, well, who says that this person can't be utilized in a different way? Put them in a place where that's not going to be a problem. Let them serve their country, because just because a person is bipolar or schizophrenic, I don't know about schizophrenia, but any of these things, if they're doing therapy, they're taking their medications, they are functioning. Somebody's making sure, you got a therapist that's making sure that they're functioning, that they're seeing things clearly, then there's no reason why they can't help to protect their country, to serve in the military if they want to. It just would preclude them from going to places where it might be a problem to get maintenance medication and to get therapy as needed. How many, and you also got to think, okay, do they have therapists out on the field with these guys? When they go out to Afghanistan, do they have a member of their troop who is a therapist? Somebody who, when something happens, when they see something on the side of the road that disturbs them, is there somebody who's talking to them immediately after it happens to try to get in front of the PTSD before they come home? But, mental health care here is a joke, and I will eventually be addressing that in general, but not today. So thank you for watching. If you're having problems, in most places there are therapy centers that will work on sliding scale. If you don't have insurance, if you don't have a job, you can probably be seen for free. They might have a program. It doesn't hurt to talk to somebody. It doesn't hurt one bit. You don't have to tell anybody that you're going to do that. But there's really, most people who need the help, the people who love you, understand that you do need some help. Trust me, they've probably had discussions about it, that we need to do something about Eric here. But don't be ashamed to get help. Don't be ashamed if they tell you, yes, there is something wrong with you. Because, see, once you know what's wrong with you, you can get better. Maybe you won't be cured, but you can get better. You can stop something from progressing into something so much worse. Like, if I would have gotten help when I wanted it, I might not have a panic disorder. That may not have developed. Instead, I went so many years without any kind of mental health that my body, my brain started saying, okay, you're not paying attention. Let's throw this out here and see what happens. And it throws that out there. And before you know it, you got triggers and you got anxiety attacks and panic attacks and all this other stuff. It's your brain's way of saying, hey, pay attention to me. Something's not right up here chemically, or your thought processes aren't right. But it's not on the person. It's not on anything, just like you wouldn't shame somebody for having type 1 diabetes. You wouldn't shame somebody who has MS or ALS. That's not something that they brought upon themselves. And especially if they're actively trying to help themselves, what they need is support. They need a pat on the back saying, you're doing a good job. I'm noticing a change in you. If you need help, let me help you however I can. I'm not a psychiatrist, but, let me help you if I can. If you just need an ear, sometimes that's all we need is somebody to talk to about the crap that's going on in our heads. Anyway, this was a long video. There's lots of groups out there to help people, even though it is mental health care is crap here. But it's better than nothing. Trust me. Nothing is bad. Thank you. Have a great day.